The war came without warning. One moment, Earth was calm. The next, the sky was filled with fire. Strange ships tore through the clouds. No one knew who they were. They called themselves the Dravari, tall, armored beings with voices like thunder and weapons that could level a city in seconds. Their ships rained light down on Earth's defenses, and in days, most of the planet fell. The humans tried to fight back. They were brave, smart, and angry. But the Dravari had fought thousands of wars. Earth was just another name in their long list of conquests. But not everyone gave up. One soldier, named Jace Riker, refused to fall. He was not the strongest or the smartest, but he had something different. He never stopped fighting, even when it made no sense. When his unit was destroyed and his base taken, Jace disappeared into the mountains, wounded and alone. For weeks, he survived on roots and rainwater. He watched the skies and waited. Sometimes, Dravari patrols passed by, searching for survivors. Jace stayed hidden, but he never forgot what they did. Not just to his people, but to the cities, the children, and the helpless. Then, everything changed. Jace was scouting a burned village one day when he heard a strange sound, not a scream, not a cry, but something in between. He moved slowly, careful not to make a sound. He followed the noise to a deep crater filled with broken metal and smoke. Inside it, a cage. And inside the cage, a woman. No, not a human. She was something else. Her skin was a soft silver blue, glowing faintly under the dusty light. Her hair was like flowing moonlight, tangled and dirty. She had a glowing blue symbol on her chest, and her wrists were chained in heavy cuffs. Her eyes were shut, but her body shivered as if in pain. Jace didn't move. Was it a trap? A trick? Then, the woman opened her eyes. They were bright, glowing blue, and filled with fear. She wasn't Dravari. Jace stepped closer. She stared at him, confused but not afraid. She tried to speak, but only a weak whisper came out. He didn't understand the words, but he knew what she was asking. "Help me." Something inside him changed. He jumped down into the crater, breaking open the rusted cage with a pipe. The chain sparked, but he didn't stop. Her skin burned cold to the touch, and her body was weak, almost weightless. Still, she tried to stand. He caught her before she fell. It was only then he noticed the marks on her arms. Burned symbols he had seen before. The Dravari had enslaved her. She was their prisoner, a captive. But why? Jace didn't have time to think. In the distance, the sound of engines echoed through the valley. A Dravari patrol. If they found him here, he was dead. If they found her, he didn't know what they would do. He picked her up and ran. The path was steep and covered in sharp rocks, but he didn't stop. She gripped his shoulder weakly, her breath hot against his neck. She wasn't heavy, but she was freezing, like holding ice in his arms. Her blue eyes kept closing, but she held on. Jace made it to a hidden cave just before the patrol passed by. He didn't breathe until their footsteps faded into silence. Inside the cave, he wrapped her in a blanket and started a small fire. She watched him with wide eyes, shivering and silent. He gave her water, and she drank slowly like someone who hadn't tasted it in days. He didn't know her name. He didn't know her story. But he knew one thing. She wasn't like the others. She wasn't human. But she wasn't the enemy. That night he watched over her. She slept close to the fire, still chained at the wrists. She didn't try to run. She didn't try to attack. In her sleep she cried, soft, broken sounds that didn't belong to a warrior. Jace stared at her, thinking about all he had lost. Maybe this was his reward. Not gold. Not power. A life he could save. An alien girl, chained by monsters, left to die. And him. A broken soldier who could walk away, but chose not to. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but he had already made his choice. He would protect her, even if it cost him everything. Asterisk, the alien girl did not speak much. Her voice was quiet, her words soft, and her language unfamiliar. But she watched Jace carefully, her glowing eyes always alert. In the dim light of the cave, she seemed both strong and broken, like a warrior who had lost everything. Jace gave her food, small pieces of dried meat and fruit he had saved. She ate slowly, with hesitation, as if unsure if she should trust him. But after a few bites, her expression changed. It was small but real. A sign of thanks. Days passed. Jace moved her to a safer location, deeper into the mountains. He found a hidden bunker, an old outpost left from the first weeks of the war. Inside, there was a bed, water, and some medical supplies. It was cold, but it was safe. She didn't speak his language, but they started to understand each other. Jace used hand signs, drawings, and simple words. She pointed to herself and said, "Kalia." That was her name. Kale, he repeated it. And she smiled. It was the first time she smiled. Jace didn't know what she was or where she came from. But the more he watched her, the more he understood one thing. She was not the enemy. In fact, she might have been a prisoner of the Dravari for a long time. The marks on her body were deep and old. Her chains were powered by something strange, not human tech. Some kind of alien energy locked into her chest. She couldn't remove them. Neither could he, but she trusted him. One morning while searching for food, Jace returned to find her trying to stand on her own. She had taken one of his jackets and wrapped it around herself. She looked at him with steady eyes and said one word: "Free." He looked at the chains still on her wrists. She shook her head. Then she pointed to her heart. "Here," she said. "I feel free." That hit Jace hard. No one had ever said that to him before. He sat beside her, unsure what to say. His own heart had become like a stone during the war, heavy, cold, and silent. But now, with Kalia beside him, it was starting to beat again. Later that day, something changed. While they were resting, Kalia suddenly stood up and looked toward the entrance of the bunker, her body tensed. Her eyes glowed brighter. Jace grabbed his weapon. She pointed outside. Dravari. He ran to the door and saw them, two black armored scouts walking slowly between the trees. They hadn't seen the bunker yet, but they were getting close. Jace turned to Kalia. "We can't fight them both." She nodded and touched the core on her chest. It sparked with light, and for a moment, Jace saw a strange energy form around her, but then it faded. The chains were still holding her powers back. "I'll distract them," he said. "You run." But Kalia grabbed his arm and shook her head hard. "No," she said. "Together." They waited in silence, weapons ready. The tension grew with every step the Dravari scouts took, but then something unexpected happened. A strange blue light flashed behind the scouts, and both of them fell, silently. Two arrows, made of glowing energy, had struck them from the shadows. Jace and Kalia stared. Then a figure appeared. It was another alien, not Dravari, not human. Tall, wearing a smooth black suit, with silver eyes and a hood covering his face. He looked at Kalia and said something in her language. She gasped. Then she turned to Jace. "He's my people. He came for me." The alien stepped forward and placed his hand on the glowing core on her chest. The lights around it dimmed. Her chains unlocked. Kalia dropped to her knees, shaking. Then she stood. Free. Truly free. She turned to Jace and reached for his hand. But the alien didn't smile. He looked at Jace with cold eyes. "You are human," he said in broken English. "You should not be near her." Kalia stepped in front of Jace, defiant. "No," she said. "He saved me. He stays." The alien looked at her, then slowly nodded. But Jace knew this was just the beginning. Kalia was free now, but someone out there wanted her locked away, and they were not going to stop. Not for her. And not for him. Jace didn't sleep that night. Even though Kalia was finally free, His heart stayed restless. The strange alien who had released her chains sat silently near the fire. His silver eyes never blinked. His weapon was folded on his back, glowing faintly with power. He hadn't said another word since warning Jace to stay away. Kellia tried to rest, but even she looked uneasy. Her face was tired, her shoulders heavy. She sat close to Jace, their arms sometimes touching, but she didn't speak. Something was wrong. In the morning, the stranger stood and spoke. "My name is Vale," he said, voice calm but cold. "Kellia is not safe here. The Dravari know what she is. They will come for her. You must leave this place." Jace looked at Kellia. She didn't speak, but she nodded. "She is special," Vale continued. "More than you understand. The core in her. Chest is not just energy. It is a key to something the Dravari want. If they find her again, they will destroy everything to take it." Jace's jaw clenched. "Then we fight." Vale raised one eyebrow. "You are brave, human, but foolish. You cannot fight an army alone." Kellia stood. "He is not alone." Vale looked at her, then at Jace, and said nothing. They left the mountains. That same day, Vale led them through old paths and secret tunnels under the hills. Jace didn't trust him, but Kellia followed, and Jace followed her. She walked beside him, no longer chained, no longer weak. Her steps were strong now, and her eyes stayed sharp, still. She often looked up at the sky, watching for ships. Jace noticed something else, the way her hands sometimes glowed when she was afraid, the way the light in her chest pulsed faster. When danger was close, he didn't know what it meant, but he could feel it. Kellia was changing. Or maybe, waking up. After 2 days of walking, they reached a ruined city. Broken towers, smashed streets, and silence. Vale said it had once been a Dravari research site. Now it was dead. But the machines still worked. Inside a shattered building, they found a control room. Vale used a device to power it on. Lights blinked. A map appeared on the cracked screen. Strange symbols and a red marker pulsing at the center. "This," Vale said, pointing, "is what the Dravari are after. A weapon buried deep beneath this city. One of our people hid it long ago. The key to unlock it is inside Kellia's core." Jace looked at her. "You knew?" Kellia shook her head. "Not all of it. I only knew they wanted me. I didn't know." "Why?" Vale sighed. "They captured you to use the key. But they couldn't force it open. The bond is alive. It only opens by choice." Jace stepped forward. "Then don't open it." Vale looked at him sharply. "If we don't, the Dravari will. They are coming. We must destroy the weapon before they reach it. Kellia must enter the core and command it to burn." Jace turned to Kellia. "It's your choice." She looked down at her hands. The light was glowing again, blue, soft but steady. "I will." "Go," she said, voice quiet. "But not because you tell me. Because I want to." That night, they camped inside the ruins. Jace sat beside her, watching her fingers play with a small metal token she found. It looked like a child's toy, twisted and rusted. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded. "I'm scared." He was surprised by her honesty. "I don't want to be used again," she said. "Not by them, not by anyone." "You won't," Jace said. "Not while I'm here." She looked at him for a long time. Then she reached out and touched his hand. "I believe you." The next morning, just before sunrise, Vale burst into the room. "They found us." Outside, the sky turned red. Dravari dropships were coming, fast and loud. Kellia stood. No fear in her eyes now. Jace took her hand. They ran together toward the underground chamber. The final part of her past was hidden below. And what waited for her there could change everything. The ground shook as the first blast hit the city. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the walls cracked. Jace pulled Kellia close, covering her as broken glass rained down. Vale shouted from ahead. "Move! They're almost here." They ran down a dark stairwell, deeper into the underground vault. The halls were ancient and strange, lit by soft blue lights in the walls. Kellia's chest core glowed brighter with every step. The closer they got to the hidden weapon, the more it responded to her. Jace noticed her breathing had changed. Faster, sharper. But her eyes were clear. She wasn't afraid anymore. Behind them, the sounds of war grew louder. Explosions shook the air. The Drovery had landed. They reached a heavy metallic door. It was covered in strange symbols that shimmered when Kellia touched them. Vale turned to her. "This is the place. Only you can open it." Kellia placed her palm on the center of the door. A low hum echoed through the chamber. The light in her chest matched the color of the symbols, pulsing like a heartbeat. Then, a soft click. The door opened. Inside was a large, circular chamber. At its center floated a glowing sphere the size of a car, made of pure energy. Ancient machines surrounded it, dead and silent. The air inside the room felt heavy, like it was alive. "This is the core," Vale said. "It holds a weapon strong enough to destroy worlds." Kellia stepped forward slowly. Jace didn't move. Something didn't feel right. "Wait," he said. "How does she destroy it?" Vale hesitated. "She must link with it, completely. Her core will melt into it. She will disappear." Jace's eyes widened. "You didn't say that before." "She is the key," Vale said coldly. "The key must become part of the lock to shut it forever." Kellia turned to Jace. Her face was calm, but her eyes held pain. "It's okay," she said softly. "Maybe. This is why I was captured. Maybe this is why I survived. To end it." "No," Jace said. "You've been a prisoner all your life. Now they want to use your freedom to erase you. That's not a choice. That's a sacrifice." Kellia looked torn. Vale stepped forward. "If we don't destroy it, the Drovery will take it. They will use it to burn every planet they find." Kellia stared at the sphere. It pulsed slowly, like it was breathing. "I don't want to die," she whispered. "But I don't want others to suffer like me either." Jace walked up to her and held her hands. "You have a right to live," he said. "There has to be another way." Suddenly, the door behind them exploded. Drovery soldiers poured into the hallway. Blaster fire lit the air. Vale shouted and raised his weapon, firing back with deadly precision. Jace grabbed Kellia and pulled her behind the sphere. "They were trapped. We can't hold them off," Vale yelled. "Kellia now." Kellia looked at Jace, her hands shaking. She stepped toward the sphere, then stopped. "No," she said. "There's another way." She raised her hands, and for the first time, the full power of her core surged out. Her body lit up like a star. The chains were gone. The fear was gone. She reached into the sphere, not with pain, not with surrender, but with control. The sphere pulsed, screamed, then began to crack, not explode. "Change." Kellia's voice filled the room. "I will not destroy myself. I will change the weapon. I will make it mine." The energy shifted. The deadly red light turned blue. The core began to shrink, slowly becoming a glowing stone that hovered in her hands. The weapon was no longer a weapon. She had reprogrammed it. Vale stared in shock. "That's impossible." Kellia turned to the Drovery soldiers. She held the glowing stone high, and a blast of energy knocked them back like leaves in a storm. They fell, stunned. Some ran. Others dropped their weapons and kneeled. Jace stood frozen. Kellia walked to him and placed the glowing stone in his hands. "This," she said, "is no longer death. It is hope." Vale fell to one knee. "My queen." Kellia looked at him with calm strength. "I was a captive. Now I am a queen, and I choose peace." Jace stared at her, heart pounding. The girl he saved was no longer just a survivor. She was a ruler, and the war had just changed. The battle was over, for now. The Dravari soldiers had fallen back. Many were stunned by Kelya's power. Others simply dropped their weapons and fled. They had never seen anything like her before, not a weapon, not a prisoner, but a queen with light in her hands and fury in her heart. Jace stood beside her, still holding the glowing stone. It pulsed gently, no longer dangerous. It felt warm, alive, like a heart outside the body. He didn't know what to do with it. Kelya reached out and touched his hand. "Keep it safe," she said. "It listens to you." Vale looked at her. Still kneeling. "What now, my queen?" She turned her eyes toward the broken door. "Now we leave this place. There is more to do." They escaped through underground tunnels before the rest of the Dravari forces arrived. Vale knew the paths well. The tunnels were dark and silent, but Kelya's core glowed softly, lighting the way. Jace walked beside her, still quiet. His mind was full of questions. Was she really a queen? What did that make him now? Her guard? Her friend? Something more? She looked stronger now. Her steps were sure, her back straight, her eyes focused. But when she glanced at Jace, her expression softened. "You're still with me," she said. "I told you," Jace replied. "I'm not going anywhere." They reached an abandoned station. Deep in the earth, old ships rested in the shadows, half buried and covered in dust. Kelya chose a small vessel, still powered, still working. "We fly to the hidden system," Vale said. "There are others like her, scattered, sleeping, lost. If she lives, they will rise." Jace frowned. "So this isn't over?" Kelya shook her head. "No, the Dravari will come again. They always do. But now we don't run, we prepare." The ship lifted off, flying through the dark tunnels and then bursting into the sky. Stars welcomed them. The earth below grew smaller. Jace stared out the window, thinking of everything they had left behind. Suddenly, Kelya spoke. "Do you regret saving me?" He turned to her. "Never," she nodded, but her voice dropped low. "Then you must know. This journey will be dangerous. They won't stop hunting us. I carry something they want." "I don't care," Jace said. "They'll have to go through me." Her eyes shimmered. "Why are you like this?" He shrugged. "I don't know. Maybe because when I look at you, I see someone worth fighting for." Silence passed between them. Then Kelya moved closer. She reached out and rested her forehead gently against his. "Then I will fight for you too." The moment was quiet. No weapons. No battles. Just the sound of the stars outside and two hearts finding a reason to keep going. Later, Vale returned from the cockpit. "There's a signal," he said. "One of ours, an old colony. They may help us." Kelya nodded. "Set course." The ship moved faster, but not everything was calmed out far behind them. In deep space, a massive Dravari warship drifted in silence. Inside, dark commanders watched the scene from old satellites. One of them turned to the others. "She has awakened," the leader growled. "The key lives. She must not reach the others." "What of the human?" Another asked out the leaders. Eyes burned red. "Kill him, slowly." They sent a message across the stars. A bounty was placed. Images of Jace and Kelya spread across systems, not as heroes, but as enemies of the Dravari Empire. Back on the small ship, Jace sat alone, watching the stars. He didn't know what waited ahead, but he had Kelya, and that was enough. She joined him and leaned gently against his shoulder. "I don't know where this ends," she whispered. J as he looked at her. "Then we keep going until we find out." They didn't kiss. They didn't speak again. But their silence said everything. And far beyond, across the galaxy, the first whispers of rebellion began, not just for Kelya, but for every captive who had ever hoped to be free. The hidden colony was not what Jace expected when their ship landed. On the old desert moon, it looked empty, just rocks, dust, and silence. But Kellia stepped out with confidence. She walked straight toward a cracked cliff wall, pressed her hand against it, and the stone opened. A hidden gate. Behind it, an entire city waited, carved deep into the cliffs. Glowing with soft blue lights and powered by ancient machines, the colony had survived in secret for many years. It was full of Kellia's people. The same silver blue skin, the glowing eyes, the quiet strength. They stared when they saw her. Whispers filled the air. Some bowed, others cried, "She lives." Someone said. Jay stood back watching. He felt out of place. This was her world, not his. He didn't understand the language or the history. But he understood one thing. Kellia mattered to these people. She was more than a queen. She was hope. Inside a tall hall of light, the elders met with her. Jace wasn't allowed to enter, so he waited with Vale outside. The older alien said nothing. Just cleaned his weapon and watched the sky. She be safe in there? Jace asked. Vale nodded. Yes, but she may not come out the same. What do you mean? She carries power now, old power. When leaders feel it, they will ask for more, even if it breaks her. Jace didn't like that. Kellia had already suffered so much. He didn't want her to be used again, not even by her own people. After hours of silence, Kellia returned. She looked tired, but calm. They want to start a war, she said softly. They want me to lead it. Will you? Jace asked. She didn't answer. That night, the city held a feast. Lights danced above the buildings, and music filled the air. Kellia sat on a throne at the center, wearing a new outfit, royal armor, black and gold, glowing gently with her core. She looked strong, beautiful, powerful, but her eyes kept searching for one face in the crowd. Jace stood far from the center, leaning against a stone wall. When their eyes met, she left the throne. She walked to him quietly and pulled him away from the crowd. I don't belong on that throne, she whispered. Not alone. You don't have to be alone, Jace said. She looked up at the stars. The Dravari will strike soon. They will send hunters, assassins, spies. I must lead my people, but I want you beside me. Jace smiled. Then that's where I'll be. But their moment didn't last. An alarm rang out. A sharp, deep tone that echoed through the city. Kellia grabbed his hand. They found us. Ships broke through the clouds. Dravari war machines rained fire down from the sky. Screams filled the air as explosions rocked the city. Vale ran to them. There's no time. You must leave now. Kellia looked torn. I can't leave them. You're not leaving them, Jace said. You're saving them. We'll come back, stronger. She nodded. With Vale's help, they raced to the underground docks. A fast scout ship was waiting. The colony defenses tried to fire back, but the Dravari were too many. As the ship took off, Kellia looked out the window, tears in her eyes. I promised them peace, she whispered. You'll give it to them, Jace said. But not by dying. Today. The ship blasted into space, escaping just as the colony was swallowed in smoke and flame. In the silence of space, Kellia sat beside Jace, her hand gripping his tightly. Everywhere I go, I bring war. Jace shook his head. You don't bring war. You bring fear to those who start it. That's why they chase you. She rested her head against his shoulder. Then I'll stop running. Vale piloted the ship toward a hidden sector, a place only Kellia's people knew. We need allies, Kellia said. Other worlds, other voices. Jace nodded. Let's find them. And far behind them, in the burning ruins of the colony, a Dravari assassin stepped over the bodies of the fallen. He picked up a broken piece of Kellia's old armor. Then he whispered, The Queen escapes again, but not for long. He vanished into the shadows. The hunt was not over, not yet. The stars were quiet, but Kellia felt no peace. Her people had lost their home. The Dravari had destroyed the colony in hours. The memory burned in her mind like fire. She had made a promise to protect, to lead, to never be a weapon again. She had to keep it. The ship glided through a dark sector known only to ancient maps. Vale called it the Shroud, a place where old allies once gathered before the Dravari War began. If anyone still remembered their shared pain, Kellia hoped they would listen. Jace sat beside her, silent but steady. He hadn't left her side. Since the attack, his hand always found hers in the dark, like a promise without words. "Are you ready?" he asked softly. Kellia looked ahead at the stars. "No, but I will be." They arrived at a hidden station, floating above a dead planet. Ships from many worlds circled it, not soldiers, but survivors, refugees, rebels. Scars of the war were written on every face. When Kellia stepped out, all eyes turned to her glowing chest core. Some knelt. Others stared. They had heard the stories. A Dravari prisoner who became a queen. A human soldier who chose love over fear. Vale spoke first. "We bring a message. And a warning. The queen lives. And she does not kneel." Jace looked across the room and saw many expressions: doubt, fear, anger. But Kellia stepped forward and raised her voice. "I was born in chains," she said. "Not just metal, but silence. The Dravari told me I had no voice, no power. Number. Right." She placed her hand over her heart. "But a human showed me something different. He didn't see a weapon. He saw a person. He gave me a choice. And I chose to rise." Whispers moved through the crowd. "I don't come to lead with fire," she continued. "I come to build something new. Together, across species, across pain. If you've lost someone, if you've been hunted, then this is your fight too." Jace watched her with pride. She wasn't just speaking. She was reaching them. One by one, the voices answered. "We will follow. We will fight. You are not alone." The alliance was born. In the days that followed, new plans were made. Supply. Ships sent out. Secret bases shared. Messages spread to other systems. The rebellion had a face now, and it was hers. But peace never came. Easy. The Dravari knew. They had sent their best assassin, a creature born from shadows, trained to kill silently. It boarded their ship weeks. Later, during a routine jump, Jace woke to the sound of metal slicing through the halls. Alarms screamed. He ran. When he reached the command deck, Kellia stood alone, facing the assassin. Her hands glowed with energy, but she was tired. The core inside her flickered like a weak flame. Jace didn't think. He tackled the assassin with everything he had. The two crashed into a wall. Blades slashed. Blood spilled. Jace felt pain. Deep and sharp, but he didn't stop. Kellia screamed his name and unleashed her power. A wave of blue light filled the room. The assassin turned to ash in seconds. Then silence. Kellia dropped to her knees beside Jace. He was bleeding badly. "No, no," she whispered, holding his face. "I told you," he coughed. "I'm not going anywhere," she laughed through tears. "You liar." "I meant it." The medics came. He was saved. Barely. Days later, when Jace finally woke, Kellia was waiting beside him. He reached for her hand. "Did we win?" She smiled. "We're still fighting. But now, we have a chance." He looked into her glowing eyes. "And what? About us?" She leaned down and kissed his forehead gently. "We already won." Together, they stood before a new world. No more cages. No more chains. Queen reborn, a soldier healed, and a love that changed the stars.